Hey y'all, it's me, Kevvie. Now it's been a minute since my last Agatha Christie installment because the past few months I've been reading such a wide variety of books. But now it's time for part 5. So I already have a whole video dedicated to At Bertram's Hotel, my Golden Girls 24-hour readathon with Kipple. At Bertram's Hotel is a Miss Marple mystery, where Jane stays at this beautiful Edwardian hotel where shady things are happening behind the scenes. I love this one for taking the old adage, the more things change, the more they stay the same, and showing that the inverse is also true. The more things stay the same, the more they change. The next Christie novel I read was 1-2 Buckle My Shoe, as a buddy read with Sandy from Miss Reads a Lot. In this one, Poirot goes to the dentist, and only a couple hours later, his dentist is found dead. This was a really fun mystery. There was a lot of funny stuff in this one, like when Poirot was in the dentist's chair with his mouth open and full of gauze and stuff, making him completely inarticulate, but the dentist understands every word he says. I also love that they mentioned Vera Rossikoff, Poirot's sort of love interest from the Big Four, and I was hoping that she'd have more of a role in this one. While I didn't figure out the who of the whodunit, I did clock the how, the method of the murder, almost immediately. I really enjoyed this one and had a lot of fun discussing it with Sandy. I read Endless Night as a buddy read with Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. This is a standalone mystery novel, and not a traditional whodunit by any means. It's about a man who builds a home for him and his wife on supposedly cursed land. I really enjoyed this one up until the very end. The last chapter left me in a state of confusion that I've never experienced with one of these books before. I was perplexed at the characters' motivations and how they could have possibly done what Christie wrote that they did. This was one of Christie's all-time favorite works, but that ending just ruined it for me. Not a fan of this one at all. Also, it is overflowing with the G slur. Not only do they use it to describe people, but it's also the name of their estate. So if you're sensitive to that word, avoid this one because they use it constantly. After that, I read A Caribbean Mystery, another Miss Marple case. Jane goes on vacation, again, but this time to a hotel in the Caribbean. She meets a handful of curious people, including an elderly man who says to her, "Would you like to see a picture of a murderer?" But before he can show her, he is murdered, and the photograph is not found among his possessions. I really enjoyed this mystery. It's one of my favorite Miss Marples so far. There wasn't one of those usual quirky side characters that I like to latch onto, but instead Miss Marple got to be the leading force of the investigation for once, playing a much larger role than she usually does. I love the way this one was resolved as well. The only thing I think she could have done better is the development of the Caribbean setting. I didn't feel transported there. To me, it felt like this could have just as easily been some British island. A Caribbean Mystery also sets up the final Miss Marple case, Nemesis. I've not been super eager to read Nemesis, but after it getting established in this book, I'm much more eager to pick up that one. During Mid-Year Mystery Madness, I read Cat Among the Pigeons with Naomi from Naomi's Bookshelf. Honestly, I did not like it one bit. It's the lowest ranked of the Christies that I didn't outright hate. I put it even lower than Endless Night though, because apart from the ending, I at least enjoyed reading Endless Night, whereas I never enjoyed reading Cat Among the Pigeons. I didn't despise it the way I hated the clocks though. The mystery of the bag of jewels was painfully obvious, and the rest of the mystery just wasn't interesting. One way this book is similar to the clocks is that they both only feature Poirot in like 3 chapters. He may have been in 4 this time, I didn't really keep count. But yeah, Poirot doesn't appear until you're well past halfway through. I suspect this is one of the cases where the publisher insisted that Christie make this a Poirot novel against her wishes. You could argue that maybe that's what ruined the book, but I don't know, I think I side with the publishers here. The book wasn't good to begin with, and Poirot was one of the only redeeming aspects of it. If you're a completionist, then I guess this will be going on your TBR, but otherwise don't bother. The last Agatha Christie novel I read was Death Comes as the End. This standalone mystery was the first historical whodunit, being based on papyrus scrolls dating back to about 2000 BC. 20th century Britain was obsessed with archaeology, and Christie herself had quite a fascination with it, so it makes sense that she would write this book. However, speaking as a 21st century American, I don't think it was her place to tell this story. Y'all know Christie was terribly racist and xenophobic, and she wrote this novel in a very British ethnocentric manner. For starters, she wrote the entire Egyptian family as white, and all their slaves were black. What imperialist nonsense. Egypt is in Africa, and ancient Egyptians were not white. So yeah, Christie writing her characters that way really turned me off this book. And I straight up DNF'd it the first time I tried reading it earlier this year. During the Bob's Burgers readathon, one of the prompts was to reread a book that you DNF'd, so I decided to give this book another chance. I'm glad I did enjoy reading it, but I still think Christie was problematic in writing it, saying shit like, "We Egyptians are a strange people." You know, I got a lot more I want to say on Christie's racism, but I think I'll save it for its own video. But besides all of that bullshit, it was an alright mystery. I clocked who done it really early, and I'm fairly certain that she recycled one of her tricks here, because it felt very familiar, but I can't remember exactly which book I remember it from. But yeah, by the third body, I knew who it was. Oh yeah, this book also has one of Christie's highest body counts. At least of what I've read, it's only surpassed by And Then There Were None. On the one hand, that was really cool, but on the other hand, as the suspect pool dwindled, I felt like the whodunit became more and more obvious. I'm glad I gave this one another chance, and that I finally read the whole thing, but I don't think this is one I'd recommend, for all the above reasons. So now we've reached the ranking portion of the video. Because the list has gotten so long, I'm gonna switch it up a little. First, here is how I would rank the books just read in this video. Marple clearly won out this installment with a good and bad Poirot and a couple of weak standalones. Here is how the books I read for this installment rank in context of the rest of the Christies I've read. The best one from this round just barely made it into my top 20. Landing at number 18. Bertram's Hotel and 1-2 Buckle My Shoe were pretty good, and then Endless Night and Cat Among the Pigeons both wound up in my bottom 5. Also, starting this episode, I'm going to share rankings for Poirot and Marple. I only read 2 Poirots this time around, and while one was smack dab in the middle, the other was at the very bottom. But I've now read over half of the Poirot novels. With Miss Marple, on the other hand, Caribbean Mystery crested my top 3. Bertram's Hotel may be in 6th place, but that's just because the caliber of Marple novels is so high that while I loved it, it appears weaker by comparison. The only Marples I've disliked so far have been Murder at the Vicarage and Pocketful of Rye, and I've now read 8 of the 12 Miss Marple novels. As I read more and more Christies, I'm getting better and better at figuring them out. I still have so much fun every time I read one of them, and I'm excited to read the rest of her work. Have you read any of these Christies? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know which Christies you think I need to read for part 6. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if it pleases and sparkles, I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!